Good morning. I'm Bruce Hawker. I am a Director of Fine and Country Algarve, and I also run the publishing company Open Media here in the Algarve. I'm here today in my role as Director of Fine and Country to mediate this team chat. This is actually our first market update from Fine and Country Algarve. I've got here with me today Jorge Pereira, who is the General Manager of Fine and Country Central Algarve in the Almancil office. I have my dear wife, Zoie, who is the Managing Director of Fine and Country across the Algarve. Morning, Zoie. I've got David Holder, who is the Managing Partner from Fine and Country Tavira, covering the Eastern Algarve. And our guest speaker is João Costa from the Ombria Resort, which is set just outside Lulé in the beautiful hills surrounding Lulé. So good morning, João, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
So, before we get started, I'd just like to put a bit of context into the idea behind this meeting. So this is about, is the Algarve property market finally slowing down? There's been some sentiment among some members of the team that maybe it is. Others say it isn't. Other agents and developers say the market's still booming. So we basically want to chew over some of our recent experiences and data and see where we actually are. So for a little bit of context regarding Fine and Country Algarve, 2021 was our best year ever. We put down partly to pent-up demand during COVID during 2020. But we had a huge increase in inquiries, 40% increase in inquiries from 2021 compared to 2020, with 2020 already being considerably up on 2019 in terms of inquiries. This year, again, on the first half, especially when the war in Ukraine broke out, we were expecting to see some drop in inquiries. There's been a softening. We're not seeing the growth in inquiries that we were last year, but our total number of inquiries from buyers during the first half of this year up to the end of June is actually about 3 or 4% higher than the same period last year. And this has been achieved with considerably less stock, because the problem, which I'm sure the agency will all address, is the lack of stock on the market. So it's fair to assume that if the agency had more stock, there would actually be more inquiries. So demand is clearly still there. Let me start with Jorge. Jorge, where do you see things at the moment?
Hi, good morning. Hello to everybody. The main concern is the stock, the inventory. I think everybody agrees that I think the new instructions are at their lowest since years. I work, as you know, 6 years now in the Algarve real estate, and I have never seen so small inventory and stock on the market. So this is the main concern. The demand is there. The inquiries, as you said, they are there, but we don't have inventory. So that's why I see a softening or a slowdown on the market, in my opinion, at the moment. And I don't see that it might change in the coming months, as I don't see the development fulfilling the market request. There is a serious crisis on materials, on manpower. So I think every developer can say that at the moment developing it's quite difficult. And João, I think he can give his experience at the moment. So I personally think that the market is slowing down, but attention, not on prices. The prices will not drop anywhere soon.
Do you feel, George, do you feel that the lack of product is actually artificially pushing up prices? Would you say that that's what's happening?
Oh, completely. I think that as long as the stocks stay low as they are, vendors think that they have, how we say in Portugal, the last Coca-Cola in the desert, you know. So
the last Coke in the desert.
It's so when you go for valuations, we face that problem. I think Zoe will agree with me. We gave the best and professional valuations that we can based on reality and numbers, and then we come to introduce those valuations, and vendors say, "Oh no, that's too little. The other agent just next door evaluated my property 1 million more."
Yeah. Let me jump across to Tavira. David, it's a bit of a different market over there. George is in the Central Algarve, Zoe is in Carvoeiro. I know that you've had a fantastic start to the year, as the Almancil and Carvoeiro office both actually had their best ever first half in the first half of this year. Tavira has also been very strong. Well, are you experiencing the same problems, David?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Exactly the same. I mean, exactly what George just said, really, you know, is a serious lack of stock. I think the last point he made about valuations is a very valid one. It makes it difficult to give accurate valuations when people have a very high expectancy for what they've got, because there is so few stock on the market. I do think the prices are 100% holding up. You know, there's definitely the demand is still there. We're seeing a drop, obviously, in the last couple of months, but that's really a summer thing. And I think the really interesting time is going to be September, at the end of the summer, just to see where we are then, because, you know, traditionally June, July, August is a very quiet period anyway in terms of demand. So I think that's going to be the real key thing, is see where we are in September and see if that demand comes back, and hopefully we'll start to get some more stock. We are getting a trickle of it, but it's nowhere near the amount that we really need for the demand.
Okay, Zoe, what do you reckon? What would you say is the biggest problem facing the market at the moment? But also, you know, what do you think about our prices softening? Do you think prices are going to soften? Do you see prices still going up? Well, what are your thoughts, Zoe?
Morning, everybody. My thoughts are very, very similar. We've been doing lots of valuations. I actually think that there's going to be quite a lot of new stuff coming on the market after the season. Whether they will be correctly valued is another thing, because I've always prized myself in always being the middle person on my valuations, and in the last 2 months I seem to be the lowest of the low, because now suddenly everybody is just massively overvaluing so that they can win the listing. And yeah,
you're saying that other agents are artificially overvaluing properties in order to win the listings, and that's obviously
and a lot of the agents have nothing to back it up. They've only been open literally a couple of weeks, some of them. It's, you know, they seem to be springing up everywhere, and it's not good.
A good bit of perspective here, as I see it, is that all of this lack of demand, which is obviously making buyers very frustrated because they can't find.
You mean lack of stock?
Lack of stock, yeah. And I think this obviously plays beautifully into the hands of developers. So João, how has this year been so far for you in terms of sales compared to last year, and how strong do you feel demand is at the moment for your development stock?
Well, we're in a very particular position, and it's difficult to compare last year to this year for a number of reasons, which I want to explain. First of all, I would like to say that I have a slightly different perspective than the one that Jorge, David, and Zoe were talking about, because we are developers and we are only selling off-plan properties, so properties that are not completed yet. So whereas you are talking from the point of view of talking to vendors and so on who have ready turnkey properties ready to move into, and obviously there's a huge lack of stock there, as you all were saying, and the little stock that is out there, the vendors are overvaluing and the agents are overvaluing, as you also rightly said. In our case, it's different because the stock that we have is obviously limited, and our difficulty as a developer in bringing new stock to the market is unfortunately due to factors beyond our control, namely the slow licensing process that affects not just us as developers here in the Algarve, but all over Portugal. So this is a huge barrier to bringing new stock to the market for us developers, and also now more recently this year the increase in the cost of construction. So when we are taking a new product to market, we have to take into consideration obviously the market situation, the huge demand that there is, but also the cost of construction. So when we bring something to the market, we have to make sure that it is pricely right, that our margins are maintained, and at the moment it's really difficult to understand at what prices we can sell, because construction costs are constantly being updated.
Right. So you're having to put your prices up as well, obviously, to accommodate this.
Yes. So what happens is obviously in the first phase of Ombria, that we launched in early 2020, and where we have 65 units, of which just over 70% are sold off plan. These units will be completed next year. So sales last year were really good, and it was way above our objectives, our sales objective for 2021, because we had a lot of stock. So we started in 2020, then COVID came. About 2 or 3 months of 2020, there were no sales whatsoever because of the lockdowns and so on. But then in June we started selling, and sales between June and the end of 2020 were really good. And then 2021 was our best year ever, a bit like what you said as well. But because we had a lot of stock, so we had a lot of units still to be sold, and we were putting up the prices as we closed sales. So in 2021, we increased the prices 3 times. Once at the beginning of the year, once somewhere around the summer, and then again at the end of the year. And every time we were increasing prices by between 5 to 8% each time of all the remaining units. And we were still selling, so which means that there was still demand at those prices, at those new increased prices for the products. When we got to beginning of this year, 2022, we have a lot less stock than we had in 2021. So sales are going well this year, but because we have less stock and because the prices are higher, we are obviously feeling that there is a little bit less unit sales than last year. But this is what we expected, and this was part of our strategy anyway. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. I want to touch on the international market. I think this is something that's really important to George, Zoe, and David as well, for us all to look at. But at Ombria, you are uniquely positioned in terms of the golden visa.
Yes, I was going to say that.
This is the fact that you're obviously a touristic resort, so you'd have the same right to sell golden visa properties as other touristic resorts, but also apart from that, anything on Ombria qualifies for golden visa because you very conveniently fall into one of the areas which is considered as low
interior
density.
Interior, like the Atlas. So basically, all of your properties, unlike pretty much any resort in the Algarve, actually, all of your properties qualify for golden visa. So, what percentage of your sales this year, should we say, I want to specifically look at this year after the changes in the golden visa rules. What percentage of your sales this year are related to the golden visa, would you say?
I would say about 25% of our sales are golden visa buyers. And last year it was less than that. It was about 10%. So we're feeling, an increase in the number of clients that we're selling to that want to obtain the golden visa through purchasing one of our properties. And a lot of those clients are coming from the UK market because of Brexit. Clients are, British clients are now looking at where they can still buy and obtain the golden visa. And as you rightly said, we are one of the few real estate / touristic projects where you can still obtain a golden visa in the Algarve.
Am I right that there have been cases of people coming into the Algarve to buy who have come to agents such as Fine & Country and purchased their villa? Could be for a few million euros or less, but they've purchased their villa, which is where they actually want to have as their main Algarve home. But they're also buying an investment property at Ombria purely for the golden visa.
Yes, that's correct.
That's a reality. You've actually had sales that have happened. I know that Fine & Country have had a few that have been close to happening like that. So it's sorry, go on.
Sorry, that applies to the situation you said, but also to people who own properties in Spain, France, Italy, Greece, etc., that want to spend time there, but cannot, British that want to spend time in their properties there, but can no longer do so because of Brexit and the 90/180-day rule. And so they are simply buying, a property in the Algarve, either at Ombria or elsewhere that is eligible for golden visa, just for the possibility of being able to spend more, as many days as they wish and they need in Europe. And the fact that our product, our Viceroy residences, we offer 5% rental guaranteed for the first 5 years is the icing on the cake. Basically, is for them, they will be able to use it for the maximum 70 days per year that they're allowed to use. But if they don't use, they will maximize their rental income, their return on investment, basically, which is great.
So the UK is your strongest market at the moment overall?
I would say this year, yes. Last year it wasn't, but this year they probably represent our best market at the moment.
What was the largest market last year for you?
Last year was Holland.
Holland? Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
But when we talk about the UK market, let me say something. We are selling to British people, but not only resident in the UK.
Right.
We're selling to British that are residents worldwide, from the Cayman Islands to Hong Kong and so on. People, they are British, but they're living elsewhere. And they find us. Yeah, they find us and we're
actually seeing that at Fine & Country, where we're seeing from Hong Kong specifically just in this last week, a couple of clients, people who are ultimately looking at getting out of Hong Kong, so expats from around the world, but also be they Brits, be they Dutch, be they French. We deal with a lot of expats from the Middle East, from all over the world. So the market has become incredibly international. It's interesting if we look back. We opened Fine & Country in the Algarve 9 years ago, and at the time it was all about the Brits and the Germans, with the occasional Dutch and a few French buyers coming along. And then suddenly the French market surged and became our second biggest market. But then the last few years, it's been we've now, in the last 3 years, we've sold to people from over 31 different countries. I think it is 31 is the actual number. And we're seeing markets such as the USA growing at the moment in terms of inquiries and sales. Are you getting many US buyers there, João?
We are, but we cannot sell the Viceroy residences to US residents.
Okay.
So we're not selling the Viceroy residence to US residents, although we get a lot of inquiries. Now, what I wanted to say as well is, we've been talking here about lack of stock, which is, the general situation in the market. Yes. And as I said, for us developers, it's difficult to get new stock to market. But we are about to launch phase 2 of at Ombria Resort, which is called Oriole Village. And we've been working on it for the last 2 years, just to give you an idea of how much time it takes to get new things to market. But we're finally ready to launch. And we've been keeping a kind of a waiting list of people, clients who have inquired in the past that, we're looking at the Viceroy residences and it was not for them because, they wanted to spend more time here, etc. And so we have about over 120 people on a waiting list for the Oriole Village units.
Okay.
And I would say about 20% of those are US residents, actually. We will be launching these units to the market in August or early September. And that's 83 new units that are coming to the market, which are, for people who want to live there permanently, or just, if they want to rent them out, they can do so, etc.
Hopefully Fine & Country can help you sell some of those.
Hopefully, yes. I hope so, yes. I'm sure you'll find your clients will like the product.
It looks fabulous. It looks fabulous. David, down in Tavira, the market's always been very, very different. I know, obviously, the French market, for example, has dominated for you probably for the last few years. Are you seeing lots of US buyers down in Tavira now in inquiries? Are you dealing with lots of people from the US? Are you seeing any shift in the nationalities at all down there this year?
We're definitely seeing a lot more US clients. Yeah, a lot of demand from US and Canada as well. It's very interesting how it's changed, and I still think the Brits are probably the number one clients, though. It has changed quite significantly. Yeah,
I've actually got here our marketing report so far this year, and here we can see that the UK makes up 31.8% of our inquiries so far this year. That the USA is actually now at 5.7%, and that's up from 2% last year. So that is significant, because we're talking about thousands of inquiries across the Algarve. So it's a lot of people coming in from the US.
The one thing I noticed with the US is that we get quite a lot of people coming into our office asking for rental properties. So quite a lot of them are looking to stay here for maybe 6 months, see if they like it.
Before they buy, yeah.
And before they buy, I think that could be an interesting market in the future, with people coming here for long-term rents, which we just don't have at all in Tavira. I'm not sure what the other areas of the Algarve are like, but certainly in Tavira, it's very hard to find a good quality long-term rental. And I think that's something that people look at a lot before buying. But I do think they buy. I do think the way they buy is slightly different, which is probably another discussion we should have, but their sort of modus operandi for buying a house is very, very different to European clients, and that's something that's is an interesting topic to talk about.
That'll be a good one for another. So Zoe, what do you feel about the mix of nationalities at the moment? Where do you think?
Yeah, it's you just got to move with the flow, haven't you? Obviously for years and years and years back in the day, it was all the Brits. We've here in Carvoeiro, we've also had a big increase in Germans in the last year and a half. Obviously we had the French as well when they started coming in. So you just got to move and keep up with the trends.
And so we're coming close to the end of our time. I wanted to keep this to half an hour, so I think we started at 9:30, so we're coming close to 10 o'clock. George, have you got any thoughts to wrap things up?
Like I said at the beginning, so I don't foresee any drop on the prices in the coming months. About the origin from Leeds and the market, we saw here in Central Algarve in the last year a massive drop on French buyers. I think French at the moment are turning into vendors in opposition to buying. So there are less buyers, but more vendors. And I think this has to do with many of them starting to see the 10 years term of their NHR arriving. Some of them, they just miss France and want to go back to France. I see also a drop in the breeds lately. I think I have the feeling, and the numbers show me that we have a small drop on sales to breeds, but a big increase on the German market.
The German market is very strong. The German market now is actually our second biggest market. It is, on the data I've got here, the German market is currently 13%. And France is down to 8.5% overall, whereas France a year and a half ago was between 20 and 30% of our inquiries. So it's a big shift, which is interesting. But yeah, I think to wrap up, obviously it's been a great year so far. This will definitely be the best year ever for Fine & Country, even in the Algarve, based on what we've done so far this year. The second half is not going to be as strong for sure, because we don't have the stock, but there's still demand there, and it's a case of finding the right properties for the buyers, but properties that are correctly priced. It must be so frustrating for the buyers coming in and seeing so they've finally made the decision to uproot and move here, or to buy their holiday home, and they're just finding so little available on the market. So I think things need to change. We need more stock, and people need to get more realistic about valuations. Would you all agree?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah. And can I just say one final thing? I think
yes, please.
I think we at Ombria, with the new phase that we're going to launch, we're going to help you also with the lack of stock, because this new product is really nice, and I'm sure you'll find some of your buyers that have been looking, that can't find the right thing, they will find it here. Okay,
good. Well, thanks, João. Thanks for joining us, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be doing another chat probably in a couple of months' time with a different theme. So, but is the Algarve property market slowing down? It's not slowing down. There's a very slight softening, and prices are holding up. I think that sums everything up. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.